Many of the magical moments in the unmatched coaching career of Steve Konchalski happened on the StFX basketball court that now bears his name, a fitting tribute to a champion whose half-century of dedication to the game, to his players, and to the university has brought him recognition and success on the national and international stage. Affectionately known as Coach K, Canada's Coach K, Steve is the all-time winningest coach in Canadian university history. He has amassed 919 victories and a .615 winning percentage over his 46-year career leading the blue and white. There are, of course, the 3 U Sport National Championships, including back-to-back titles in 2000 and 2001. His teams earned 18 appearances to the National Championship Tournament and an incredible 42 trips to the Atlantic University Sport Playoffs, including 38 years in a row between 1976 and 2014. Along the way, Coach K guided the X-Men to 9 conference titles. The 2001 U Sport and 6-time AUS Coach of the Year, Coach K has represented his adopted country Canada in 3 Olympic Summer Games in 1976, 1984, and 1988. This was part of Coach K's long run with Canada's national team, which included 16 years as an assistant, 4 years as head coach, and most recently as a valued mentor to the next generation of coaches at the national level. Coach K's unsurpassed resume has garnered him countless accolades, including well-deserved enshrinement in 4 separate Halls of Fame: StFX, Acadia, the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, and the Canadian Basketball Hall of Fame. The journey to StFX and the seeds of a Hall of Fame career were planted as a young boy in Steve Konchalski's native Queens, New York, where the then 10-year-old, his younger brother Tom, and their father watched an NBA doubleheader at Madison Square Garden, one of the biggest basketball shrines of the day. As the Konchalski brothers grew up, they often took the subway to the Gardens, where they watched the biggest stars in the game. After starring for Archbishop Molloy High School in the Briarwood section of Queens, under the tutelage of legendary coach Jack Curran, the next stop on the basketball journey for the sweet shooting guard was the small university town of Wolfville, Nova Scotia. There, Steve played for the Acadia Axemen and for their legendary coach Stu Aberdeen. It was at Acadia where Coach K began perfecting his winning ways. During his 4 years with the Axemen, his teams dominated the Atlantic Conference, winning 4 consecutive league titles, amazingly losing a total of only 2 league games over those 4 years. Both losses came to the X-Men at the old Perry Center. Coach K won his first national championship as a player with the X-Men in 1964, earning tournament MVP honors along the way. After graduating from Dalhousie University with a law degree and a brief return home to the U.S., Steve decided to come back north of the border to pursue his passion for coaching. In 1975, hearing StFX was in the market for a coach for their men's basketball team, he borrowed a car and made the trek to Antigonish to meet with the athletic director at the time, Father George Keogh. Father Keogh took a chance on the 30-year-old and hired the one-time nemesis of the X-Men, and the Coach K era at StFX began. To begin the process of building the foundation for his program, Coach K turned his attention back home, where he found his first and possibly most important recruit, Gil Green, an electrifying player that excited the crowds at the OC and made all of the players around him better. Gil would be instrumental in helping Coach K build the X-Men into perennial, regional, and national championship contenders. By 1981, Coach K had established the blue and white as a force to be reckoned with, bringing the X-Men their first Atlantic Conference championship since 1962. The X-Men were officially back. 4 years later, in 1985, the X-Men hosted and won the Atlantic Regional Championship, earning their 5th trip to the Nationals in 7 years. But the goal of reaching the summit of Canadian university basketball and capturing the championship ring had eluded the X-Men. By the late 1980s, the X-Men, having been knocking on the national championship door for some time, were primed to break it down. Help in reaching that goal came in 1989 and from a very unusual place. Coach K, through contacts made with his national team involvement, recruited a trio of Central African Republican student athletes. Aristide Ngilibe, Guy Mabongo, and the physically dominant Richard Bella. These three young men would be key contributors to the program, winning its first CIAU title in 1993. The ambitions of the Canadian and American players that had come before them, with a heavy influence of homegrown Blue Nose talent as well, was finally realized with the support of three young men from another part of the world. Young men who arrived in Antigonish in the middle of the winter of 1989, speaking no English and unprepared for the frigid temperatures that an Atlantic Canadian winter would have in store for them. The team's accomplishment in 1993 would not have happened without the many X-Men who had come before them and laid the groundwork for their success. The Gil Greens and Greg Winstons, Tommy Sullivan and John Hatch, Farouz Grunlian, Jeff McIver and Jeff White, Wade Smith and Augie Jones, Chris Salitri and Kyle Gale, Marion Mathis, Brent Baker, and Danny McFarland. These X-Men of previous years, and many more, while not on that 1993 championship team, played a major role in elevating Coach K's program to national championship contention. At the start of the new millennium, the X-Men were dominant, led by all Canadians Randy Knorr and Fred Perry, and surrounded by a ton of homegrown Nova Scotia talent. Coach K's X-Men captured consecutive national championships in 2000 and 2001. For 2 years, the Blue and White were kings of the court at the then Halifax Metro Centre. The 2001 national championship squad completed an undefeated and never repeated 20-0 regular season on their journey to the third national championship in the program's history. Coach K wasn't done in that decade, guiding the program to 4 more AUS banners in the following 5 seasons, 2002, 2004, 2005, and 2006. During this golden era of StFX X-Men Basketball, from 1997 to 2006, the Blue and White won an amazing 7 AUS titles and 2 national championships in this 10-year span. But when you talk with Coach K, he will be the first to say that beyond the wins and losses, beyond the championships won, and the few that slipped away, the almost 5-decade journey is to be remembered for the various people who were with him along the way. There were the mentors, Stu Aberdeen, Frank Baldwin, and the great Jack Donahue, the former Canadian national team head coach. There were his athletic directors and friends, Father George Keogh, John Packy McFarland, Tom Kendall, and Leo McPherson, who was also a former player. There are the assistant coaches, friends and confidants who have been by his side and in his ear, from Owen Cameron and Ronnie J.J. McDonald, to Todd McKillop, Augie Jones, Brian Lee and Brent Baker, Doc Ryan, Denton Anthony, and Tyrell Vernon, to name but a few. And of course, there are the players, far too many to mention, who have achieved remarkable success not only on the court, but also, and most importantly for their coach, off the court, having established successful careers and raised families while giving back to their sport and to their communities. Any satisfaction with a big win or a new record set would pale in comparison to the pride Coach K always felt when one of his players crossed the stage with their StFX degree. And finally, through it all, Coach K has been blessed with a championship family. His wife, Charlene, has been there for the ups and the downs, while providing unwavering support not only to him, but also to the players and coaches who have been part of the X-Men basketball family. Steve's children, Christopher, Julianne, and Maria, grew up in the program. While his 2 grandchildren won't see him on the X-Men bench, they will learn about his legacy, one that has left an indelible mark. Congratulations to a proud Xaverian, one whose career epitomizes the StFX motto to preserve and convey whatsoever things are true. Thank you, Coach K.